I think it's very likely that match fixing has happened in Australian sport, is probably happening now and will happen in future.
Late today, the National Rugby League confirmed it was treating the matter seriously and cooperating with authorities, but it also urged caution.
We should be very careful today not to cast a pall over all of our game because of some suggestions of illegal activities. There is no specific allegation yet, no charges, no formal investigation by police, and we must be careful not to jump to conclusions.
Leading out Manly is the captain.
2015 was the Manly Sea Eagles' most disappointing season for more than a decade. In June, Manly played against the South Sydney Rabbitohs, losing to the favourites by more than 8 points. The trigger, it's suspected, for a betting win.
Another one, too. Almost gave him 3. So go wide, Rod's going to do it again.
This game, later in the season against the Parramatta Eels, is another under suspicion, where a team that had once been billed as possible premiership material just failed to make its mark against its underrated opponent. But today, the NRL was giving nothing away.
Can you confirm involved?
I'm not going to talk about specifics in relation to individuals, games or clubs.
What about?
Again, I'm going to get the same answer. I'm not going to talk about issues relating to individuals' names or clubs or matches.
Can you confirm it's round 16 involving last year involving the Rabbitohs and Sea Eagles?
I'll say it for the third time. I'm not going to say anything specifically about games or matches or individuals.
It's not the first time the league's been investigated for match fixing.
The former NRL player Ryan Tandy's been convicted of trying to rig a match as part of a betting scam. A magistrate...
6 years ago, the late Ryan Tandy was playing for Canterbury against the Cowboys, knocking on in the first few minutes of the game, then giving away a penalty.
Ugly looking tackle, and the penalty comes right in front of the posts.
It later emerged that 95% of TAB bets placed on the first scoring play were for the unusual option of a Cowboy penalty goal. Tandy, a compulsive gambler, was convicted of dishonestly attempting to obtain a financial advantage. He later took his own life.
In many games, you can wager on particular events within the game, who kicks the first goal, who scores the first try, and those things can be quite easily influenced in some games.
Police are concerned about a growing link between players and identities well known to them, highlighted in this recent photo of a dinner at Sydney's Star Casino. While none of these players have been linked with match fixing, it's nonetheless a concern the NRL shares.
I think it's a threat for every sport in this country, and clearly we have to learn as we progress to make sure that we're well protected as a sport.
Well, we're talking really big money potentially being wagered on Australian sport. You know, the market in Australia at the moment is worth about $750 million on sports betting alone. That's a small amount compared to poker machines, which are still $11 billion, but it's growing rapidly. It's the fastest growing gambling sector internationally and in Australia.
Match fixing pops up from time to time. Australia has a very good reputation. We've had very few instances of betting-related corruption in Australia, and when they've occurred, the sports have dealt with them very well.
Malcolm Speed heads a coalition of major sporting bodies, and he believes Australia still has good controls in place to prevent widespread corruption.
From time to time, an isolated incident occurs. You can't legislate against idiots who want to disregard everything that they're told and come out and strike at the heart of the sport with match fixing, but I don't think it's the start of an epidemic.
Today should have been a celebration of one of the league's top-billing games, but last night's State of Origin clash has already been clouded by a smell of corruption, and the league is not happy.
But it's over! State of Origin 1 is over!
This is a threat which exists for all sport in this country and globally. The response from the NRL will be very clear. If any allegations are proven, then we will ban anyone found guilty for life.
With an explosion of online gambling, the stakes are growing rapidly higher, and with it, the dangers of match fixing are growing too.
Australia's the world's biggest gamblers by a fair margin. We gamble well over $1,100 a year per capita, per person in Australia. That's a huge amount. If we add into online gambling on top of that mix, then it's a recipe for a perfect storm.